and welcome to predictocast, the podcast where we predict a movie storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else about it. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, everybody.
I do declare this week we are wrapping up Larry Cohen Month, and the reason I'm talking like that is because this week on the show we're talking about special effects from, was that 1984? Is that right? Yes.
Yeah, I think so. That's what HBO said, at least.
Yeah, 1984.
Right.
The reason I was talking like that is because the lead, one of the lead actors, her voice seems like it has been dubbed by Rue McClanahan.
At the very least, it just the way, I don't know, it just seems like they at least ADR'd most of her lines.
Yes.
Maybe it's just looking back at 1984 movies and how everything is maybe filmed differently or the sound mix is different, but something seems off with everything she's saying.
Yeah, it's very heavily dubbed, it seems like. So this is a weird opening 10 minutes because it doesn't really give us any idea where this is going, which is good in a way because we can be surprised, but also like doesn't give us a ton to talk about. But it does, I will say, it does have that uncomfortable, weird, sort of slightly skewed reality that we do like from Larry Cohen movies.
It does, and it does that thing that his movies do, where we kind of jump midstream into somebody's life. But usually we kind of get a sense of what's going on to a degree, or some sort of momentum, some sort of forward movement of the plot. And this one, maybe we have it, but we are starting with, I just don't imagine is the main plot. I don't think these are the main characters that we follow.
No, probably not.
I think these are characters who are, something is going to happen to them, and then we will follow someone else.
Yes, I think you're right. I think they are being set up like you set up characters in a slasher movie to be killed. And I feel like that's what's going to happen here. Although I don't know if both of them will die or if only one will die. It's unclear right now, but so let's just talk through what we see. And in the opening, we did call it right in the mini episode. It is about movies, so we nailed that, as if it could be about anything else. But we get over a black screen with the credits. We get some dialogue of reporters talking to someone named Neville. And he is a film director, and we get little snippets of conversation between reporters and him, reporters asking him about his latest production, asking him how much money he lost, asking him if it's true that he built and destroyed the sets 3 times. All of this stuff, him countering with, my movies have 100 million in rentals, and like all of this other stuff, like just kind of going back and forth about how he's this sort of embattled director who is kind of fighting with various studios and producers and money people, and that he's like thinks that Hollywood is done with him and he's going to go back to New York.
And that it's kind of like every stereotypical director from that time, like just talking in just really jaded terms about everything. And I don't know, it starts off pretty much as crosstalk the movie. Thank God for captioning, because like just the start of it would just be him talking while when we don't see anything. It's a black screen. There's a black screen, and we just hear him talking and 4 or 5 other people talking over him, like it's a press conference. And like it takes like at least 10 seconds to like kind of sort out in your brain, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
That's great. And then we don't get another reference to him until like 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
Well, so I think that's kind of the what we're doing. We're setting up who this guy is, and we're dropping a hint to him later, and then maybe maybe Neville sort of looms large. What was his first name? I can't remember what his first name was.
Chris.
Okay. So like maybe Chris Neville sort of looms large over the movie. Maybe he doesn't come into the film until a little bit like halfway through. He's sort of this like almost like a boogeyman type character in a way. Not saying that he's going to be like evil or anything, but he's sort of, off in the distance, and we get little snippets and bits of him, and people are trying to find him because he is connected in some way, or they're worried about him being involved in whatever is going to happen.
At the very end, we have somebody ask, I don't know why we had to bring this up, but then we have to bring this up. They have someone ask him what other directors have influenced him.
Oh, yes.
And he makes a reference to Zapruder film.
Yes, he does. Yeah, that's something. So I wonder if that means that his he does a lot of handheld photography, and
I don't. Okay, if remember your theory of not so much a haunted set, but like a set where an actual crime happens and we can't. It's because it's a film scene. The filming thing, maybe no one notices right away it's a real death.
Yeah.
Or like someone gets shot on camera and then they use that footage to try to solve the mystery backwards. Why else would you bring up Zapruder film right away?
What if it does actually connect to Deadly Illusion? Because if you remember at the beginning of Deadly Illusion, we have that scene where Hamburger and Rena are in that diner with that lady, and they're talking about the JFK assassination. And then we have a prosthetics guy who might be involved in the making of this movie. So maybe there's a shared universe here.
I can see a shared universe where like actual Larry Cohen was at one point in the 80s fascinated with the JFK.
Well, everybody was fascinated there. How many like late night syndicated shows that you saw on like UPN were like the truth about the JFK assassination right after Alien Autopsy?
That's one of those times I'm happy not living in the States, so we only got a third of it in Canada.
Those are on all the time. They would always be like an alien abduction show.
Elvis is alive.
And Elvis is alive, and then also like the real truth about the JFK assassination. And you would see those shows pop up all the time. There'd always be new information, shocking revelations, and you're like, I mean, the guy got shot. It was very tragic. It was an awful moment in our nation's history, and they probably caught the guy who did it.
Yeah, like I mean, like is how much, to a certain degree, like if any leader in America was shot, like it is like, oh, it's not a huge conspiracy. There's 40% of the population who hates that person, and 2% of that population who are batshit crazy, 2% up to 30%. So like there's a certain level of like, yeah, I can just see that someone would do that rather than like, how did this come about? What conspiracy? Who's behind it? Like fucking all Americans own fucking guns. Like, no big deal. It's not a big deal. Like
this is not about the movie at all. But what would it like? How do you think people would respond in the world if somehow there was like definitive proof that JFK was killed by someone else in a different location, and they like revealed it all, like here's the real killer, here's how they did it, we have all of this proof now, we found all this evidence that proves this is what really happened? Do you think anyone would care, or do you like, how do you think that would go over?
Here's what I think would happen, and this is me being jaded. It would trend for 2 days, and then something awful would happen.
Yeah, I mean that is fair, because they did the military released footage of UFOs, and people were like, "Well, that's fucking weird," and then we just went right back to everything else that's going on.
If they had told this in 1997, big deal, right? Like people still cared. I mean, like JFK would be dead at this point anyways.
Yes,
right?
True, probably.
His son changed his face and became Q to take down pedophiles in pizza shops. That's great. But like at this point, like literally, if it happened in 2020, shit happens so fucking fast, and it goes like politicians can lie to our face so baldly right now. Like they can just like, you can say like, oh, everyone in the hospital says the hospitals are overflowing with sick people because I work there and I see that. And then they can go on TV and go, no, they're not.
And you might
think if you were from a different time, hey, that's a scandal. It is not at all anymore.
Well, and you also might think to yourself, why are they talking about this? Why are they talking about politicians and the president? It's because that as soon as we see some actual footage in this movie, we are in an approximation of the Oval Office.
Of the Oval Office. What we're going to talk about right now, of the 10 minutes, this is about 4 of them.
Yeah.
And like if they wanted $100 million in rentals, this is probably like, this is the part of this movie that was worn down by the guys who are taking the real life people who these dudes taking pictures in this scene are.
Yeah.
So we come in this approximation of the White House. It's but like kind of a circle.
Yeah, it's the Oval Office. It's
an oval office.
It's the circular office. Yeah,
circular office. They couldn't afford an oval.
Fair.
And they have in the middle a lady. She's wearing an American flag hat, holding 2 little miniature flags like Kodos and Kang, and wearing a very brief America briefs, and that's it.
Yeah, she's got little like pasties on, little like red, white, and blue pasties, and is on like this turntable, like this lazy Susan that is just spinning her around. And in the perimeter of the room are all these old perverts with cameras.
And they're just taking picture. They each have a different kind of camera. They're just taking picture after picture after picture, and they're like leering. Like they can't wait to go jack off to this picture. And it's just one of, like we've talked on the show so many times with Power 98 and other things, like the like everyone's like, oh, everyone's so much more sexualized and dirty nowadays. Like fucking people in the 70s and 80s and 60s and up to the mid 90s, like they were so starved for a naked lady that it's like when you see them, they become like you see like 50-year-olds turn into 12-year-olds. It's so pathetic.
I was trying to figure out how this business worked. So it's like a peep show, kind of, because this is New York in the 80s. I'm pretty sure those things still existed. So maybe even something like this existed. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't based on a real thing. But like, I guess they pay money to rent a camera, and then they go in and they take a bunch of photos for a period of time, and then they get to go home with the film that they then develop. How would they get that developed? Do they develop it on site? Because I don't think you can just take a bunch of naked photos to your Photoshop and get that, not the computer program.
Unless you like know somewhat a fellow perv in the back room.
I bet they do.
I bet these guys do. I mean, like they're having the time of their life, and it's like you can see it's set up like you leave this room and then go down the stairs, and then there's like a strip club. There's a waiting room where another girl will come up dressed pretty much the same after she's done. So it's like everyone taking shifts. But there's a bouncer type guy who's very ineffectual, who's trying to keep them some separation. And another guy comes in, this all-American looking guy who by that I mean he looks like a creep.
Yeah, he looks like he's straight from the wheat fields of Iowa.
And he's looking very intense, and she sees him, and now she gets shyer, and she starts covering herself up while they still continue to take pictures of him. And he's not interested in getting a camera, renting a camera. And she finally decides to run out of the room, which leads to my favorite moment where a guy just continues to take pictures of where she stood.
Well, no, he is taking pictures because the bouncer guy tries to stop this guy who's come into the room and disrupted their show, and he ends up kicking that guy in the face, and then that guy goes on the ground, and then one of the pervs just starts taking pictures of that beaten up dude on the ground.
That's pretty phenomenal. He like for being the guy, I suppose he's there to like stop old perverts.
Yeah,
but like this guy who comes in, he's a strapping young man. He's a big dude, but like he doesn't come off as a fighter. He beats the shit out of this bouncer within seconds. Like takes him down with one punch and then does the big wind up soccer penalty kick to his face when he's down.
Yeah,
like, which in real life would kill you.
Yeah,
that's illegal in mixed martial arts. You can't do that.
And that old pervert,
you can't kick a downed opponent.
And that old pervert who's taking that pictures is like, sex or violence, either way, my dick gets hard.
What he's having the best day.
Yeah, and so she runs out of the room, and the guy follows her, and he goes downstairs and he asks for Mary Jean. And I wish that they had just called her Mary Jane, because that's the only thing I kept thinking in my head every time they said her name. I was like, why is it not just Mary Jane? Because Mary Jean is a hard name to say.
And she later called herself Andrea Wilcox, which I think is her real name.
Oh, okay.
But why would he? So that must be Mary Jean must be her stage name that he knows is her stage name.
Oh, because everybody there, because the woman he sees later, who is also blonde and has green eyes, and says, my name is also Mary Jean. So now I wonder if there's something weird happening in that club where it's like only hiring green-eyed women who all look similar and can wear blonde wigs.
And all talk incredibly slow. Like the fact that we don't get much in this 10 minutes is because this character and Andrea Wilcox, original Mary Jean, talk at a slow pace. Like nothing happens at like as soon as they start talking, it's like, guess I'm gonna strap in for this. This is not going anywhere soon.
And
my name is Mary Jean too. I'm blonde and green eyed too. Yeah. I can be whoever you want me to be. And I get it. These are abused people, mentally, physically, everything. Like these are men taking advantage of. She would be dead inside, but also it's hard to watch someone talk who's dead inside.
Yeah. So he sees someone go out the door, and he reveals he's looking for his wife. And
you ain't my wife. And like, okay, like this is. If he starts saying my wife more, it's gonna be a much better Borat movie.
And she's like, "Are you sure?" And he sees his wife run out.
And he goes, very nice.
God, fuck. He sees her leave the building, and he runs after her, and he catches up with her on the streets of New York. It's snowy. There's snow on cars. It looks very cold, which is interesting.
Hopefully it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's there's like a weird patriotic theme. And we're watching this in July. We've just had July 4th, which, you know, who gives a shit? And then they go out into the snow. And I think maybe that was intentional. It's like, oh, you're setting up this sort of patriotic thing. Everybody immediately goes to summertime, July 4th, and then you push them out into the snow, and it's like a big disruption. And he catches up with her, grabs her, and then tries to put her in his car, and ends up smashing her head into the side of the door.
Just in like, other than to prove that he's kind of crazy and on edge, like it leads to nothing. Like he doesn't say great success when he does it. Like it's just he just does it, and then she holds her head and like, oh shit, he's being. And then like she's kind of like, oh, just drive me home. Like luckily he catches her right next to her own car or his car, and then he just drives her to her apartment.
Well, see, I thought this was going to be like a twist of like, oh, she faked it. Like somehow because later she starts faking stuff. So I'm wondering, did she fake hit her head so that he would feel sorry for her and like would let her get a chance to somehow like get back to her apartment and then potentially escape? So did she fake getting hit in the head and putting fake blood on there so that she could get him to drop his guard a little bit. I don't know. We don't know yet. Maybe.
Like, what if she's like someone who's, ran from her own her old life, who's unfortunately fallen into the sex industry, and also is really good at just in the middle of the moment doing practical effects.
Well, maybe she knew, like she was prepared. So this is a person who is prepared for this moment. She knew that eventually this guy would find her, and she was been waiting for it. And when he finally came, she's like, all right, here's the moment. So I'm going to run off. I'm going to change. I'm going to get my little like weird blood pack. I'm going to put it up in my hair. And then whenever the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to make it look like he hit me in the head, or that I hit my head and then I'm bleeding. And that will cause him to like relax for a second, because I know that deep down he's like a decent person. He's just a little scattered, and then that'll give me a chance to get away from him.
Except for this doesn't lead to anything.
No, well, we don't know that yet, because the way this 10 minutes plays out, we're not really totally sure.
I mean, like at the end of the 10 minutes, she's not like going like, oh God, my head.
Well, no, of course not. But I'm saying maybe she did that to get him to take her back to her place, because otherwise he might have just like hit the road with her if she had been okay. But maybe there was this whole thing. I don't know. I
mean, he specifically needed a place to sit down to set up a.
Oh, that is true. You're right. He does need to go to her place, because he takes her back to her house, and I was mostly focused on an awning in the background of a scene that looked like it said the JJ Apricot Lot. And I was very fascinated by that, and I couldn't make it out because it's sort of blurred out in the background. But I'm hopeful that there was a place in 1984 in New York called the JJ Apricot Lot.
What would you do there?
Well, I think that it was a place for John to sell his many apricots.
His many apricots. I'm sure it's there was a restaurant in New York, according to Yelp, it is closed, called the Apricot JJ Limited.
That's what it was.
JJ Apricot. Yep. So that is an actual restaurant they just caught on camera.
Oh, fun. Yeah. Okay, cool. Because I looked up.
It made it to the point. It exists. At least existed to the point where Yelp existed.
Well, I looked up JJ Apricot Lots, and it brought me to jjshouse.com, and where I could buy apricot blouses.
Are you going to?
Well, no, because the little text on Google says apricot, shop women's blouses online. JJ's House offers sex casual blouses to fit your fashionable needs.
There's one word in that sentence that doesn't make sense.
I don't know why you need a sex casual blouse.
To get better access to I mean, if I'm watching HBO and Cinemax, like the belly button, which is where you kiss a girl and she goes crazy.
Do I want to allow JJ's House to show notifications? Absolutely. Allow.
Absolutely. No, thank you. But if you at home are going to JJ's House to look up sex casual blouses, and if you want them to have notifications, please go ahead. And also, if you buy some, add us at predictocast on Twitter and tell us if you have enjoyed your product and if it has helped your casual sex.
Well, I'm glad that we got to the bottom of my fascination with JJ's apricot.
You really were, like, you mentioned like 6 times, like, is that what it says? Is that what it says? Like, I'm like,
but the phrase JJ's Apricot important. Lot is very funny.
Well, it rhymes, so you like that. I know that.
Well, anyway, so they go into her apartment. You fucking asshole, making fun of me for being interested in JJ's Apricot Lot.
It's not my fault you brought it up on air as well.
Well, we got to the bottom of it. So, and I bought a nice sex casual blouse. But anyway, they go up to her
for Mother's Day next year.
We go up to her apartment, and he takes the time to set up a projector and a reel-to-reel.
Like, this was so crazy. Like, forgetting that it's 1984 for any like length of time to watch somebody like, okay, I got something to show you. Let me set up my reel-to-reel,
which
that I pulled out of like my back seat and is as big as my torso. I'm like, is he like, what is he going to show her as a Zapruder film? Like, what's fucking happening here?
Well, it might as well be.
I
Because
forgot
that's what it looks like.
Like, I mean, like, I forgot that if you wanted to show someone something, like, you couldn't just pull out your phone or a VHS or whatever. Like, you had to pull out, like, you were a fucking indie director. Like, here's my reels and just let me get my tape for a while. He wants to show her home footage of her cow baby, which is a cowboy baby. Is this kid ever doing anything that's not cowboy related?
Well, they are very Southern, according to their accents.
Well, his name is either Keith or Keef.
I think it's Keef, according to the subtitles. Keefe. Keef.
We have come across times where someone's accent is so thick that subtitles just kind of give up. They haven't said inaudible yet in this one. So
That's true.
Okay.
So yeah, he sets this up. He shows her this tape, this home video. Looks like it was recorded in the 1950s, of this kid riding a horse and everything. And he's saying that he's told the kid all about his mother. And it very clearly is clear that she is this kid's mother, and she must have run off and left him and the child to pursue her dreams of living in the Big Apple and trying to make it as an actress. And she kind of says that, like, she wouldn't be good at being a mom and all this other stuff. So
yeah, she doesn't come across somebody like, oh, she sees this film and she's affected, like, oh, my baby. She legitimately is like, why are you showing me this? I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, she does not care. So
she's like the person you're telling him about doesn't exist. It's the me in your mind, which is fair. Like, she's just being honest about herself. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. So she at this point, does she call her?
Well, first she gets up and she very clearly intentionally knocks over the reel.
Oh, that's right.
She goes, oh shit. And then she goes and takes a fake phone call to tell him that about a gig she has, because she has her apartment is full of, like, posters and calendars with herself on it.
Yes.
But he's saying, like, you're not getting into any real work. You're doing sex work. And
yeah.
She's like, well, she goes,
it's
she
a
looks
legitimate
across the street
career,
and sees
buddy.
Keith. I mean, what's he doing? Just driving around with a reel in his back seat with a cow baby. But, like, she looks across the street and sees steamed hams, and she sees Chris Neville.
Yeah, she sees a theater with a marquee that says "The Films of Chris Neville,"
and she does this whole fake phone call, because we love our fake phone calls in this fucking show, where people talk to fake directors and casting agents, and she talks about how she's setting up a meeting with Chris Neville and he has parties and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and I guess he done some porn now, because Keith is unimpressed and he's like, that's not real film. She goes, you thinking explicit sex ain't acting? Ask any housewife in America. And then she kind of makes fun of him for a while for being a goody two shoes and scrubbing out the dirty words in the John at school. But you always were real good about rubbing things out. And it's like, she's buried him 5 feet under. He should just leave if he could get, dig himself out of this fucking grave, because he just got burnt.
Well, okay, so that's what I'm curious about with in regards to Chris Neville. Like, in the beginning, with all that reporter chatter, it seems like he is a real director, because he's talking about building sets and he's talking about, like, $100 million in rentals and things. But is he just a porn director?
I think that's maybe what the $100 million in renting might mean, or, like, maybe he has come across times where now he's doing sleazier movies.
Maybe so.
Maybe, but, like, also
but he's known for that.
Yeah, but, like, 1984 is the time where it's just past that 70s period where explicit films were all of a sudden, like, maybe they're art.
Yeah, maybe. But I think
decided, like, thought like, okay, maybe these are legitimate movies that happen to show explicit, very hairy, very, very hairy.
I was thinking that like this is 80s New York, and it's before all the
concrete jungle where dreams are made of.
It's before all the porn theaters were shut down. And like New York was cleaned up and, you know, sort of Disney-fied a little bit. But that, like, the theater that she sees across the street might be a porn theater, and it might just be showing the films of Chris Neville. And maybe when he left Hollywood, he's gone back to New York and gotten into just being an adult filmmaker again.
Well, she says this whole thing where she's going to meet with him, and she's like, "You've seen his parties on the TV. They even cover them with TV." He's like, "I know what they is," and
the most famous like, pornographer in America,
or at least at one point. But like, she says the rubbing out line, and then like they immediately like hard cut to her in a different dress. Like that's the end of the scene. Like you can't top that.
No.
And then like she's getting ready to go out to this fake meeting that she's going to get, but I assume. If I had to make predictions, because this is pretty much the end of the 10 minutes.
There's really not much that happens here that sets up for where we're going.
Yeah, but we are a prediction podcast. Like, I expect her to try to sneak in on something that Chris Neville is doing to either get attention or just, you know, get Keith's attention offered to, like, you know, draw him, like, make him think that she is in with him, that she has some kind of thing going on. And during that time, maybe on one of his sets or one of his things, she dies.
Oh,
and now it's a mystery of like maybe a misdirect of maybe Keith killed her, or maybe Keith didn't, maybe somebody else did in her shady past. Maybe Chris Neville did. We don't know if he's an actual character or he's just a looming figure above the film.
Yeah.
There's so much, because I don't feel like we've been introduced to the main characters yet.
No.
I really can't. So like I can't say who's going to follow in this story, because I can't imagine it's these two. And the more I say that, the more I jinx that it actually will.
No, these are not compelling characters, though. That is one thing about Larry Cohen movies, is that his central character is always at least sort of interesting in a way. I think
they're always quirky, and they're always like somebody who stands out. If they're walking down the streets of New York, you notice them because they've got a swagger to them.
Yes, I would say that of the movies that we've covered, I would say probably the least of those is probably the protagonist in God Told Me To, because he's sort of more of an everyman. But then when you, like, I've watched The Stuff recently, and when you get to like that guy, he is like all over the place. And then of course Billy D. Williams in Deadly Illusion, and of course Eric Roberts in The Ambulance. So like he's got some really interesting lead characters. So I'm kind of curious who is going to fit that role here, and I don't think it's either of these two people. So
what if they get to Chris Neville's set or his film thing, and a double murder happens, right? But then like Cowbaby, the baby cowboy, comes to town as a grown up.
Oh,
say this is a flashback to the 60s or 70s.
Okay,
and then now he's a grown man. He comes riding into New York on his horse because that's all he knows. I mean, the horse raised.
Oh, and then he becomes the naked cowboy in Times Square.
He becomes a naked, and while he does that, he's trying to figure out who killed his parents.
Oh, that could be interesting.
And the special effects of this movie, called special effects, is we have his dick blurred the entire time.
I think that I think they're going to try to get in, like, she at the very least is going to try to use Chris Neville as a way to get away from Keith, and she is like, maybe something is going to happen. Maybe he helps her fake her death. Like he does some special effects, makeup wizardry, and they think that she's dead so that Keith will leave town and go back to his, cowbaby son. And then somehow she actually really dies, or something goes wrong, or Chris Neville thinks that she's really dead. even though he was trying to help her fake it. And then it turns out that she isn't dead. She was like messing with him. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of projecting right now.
What if like someone thinks she's dead, but then she shows up on a film, like some sort of Zapruder film?
They pull her out of a library, a book depository. Is that different from a library?
I don't know. People in the lower states have words for things that
I'm from the South.
Follow.
We did not call libraries book depositories. We called them libraries.
Is that because you just didn't read? Is that why you're into movies?
Oh no, my secret shame revealed.
Oh man, I don't know. Because we have gotten so little, and I don't trust what we've seen.
No. I think this whole opening is a special effect in and of itself, making us think this movie is going one way when it's going to go another.
If you had told me, if they had introduced the character of Chris Neville to start and then showed in universe someone seeing his name on a marquee, I would assume this start was his film.
Oh fuck, what if it still is? What if it's a weird meta thing where we see the movie play out, but he is a character? He's like a Stephen King. He puts himself into his own movies.
He puts himself into his own movies, and his mother takes care of a lot of birds, and that's a real deep cut for you for this show.
I don't understand it.
What was that movie we watched during
Laughing Politely?
Was it the month we were trapped in the theater?
Oh, wait, which movie? Oh, yes. What was that? Zelda Rubinstein is in it, and Michael Lerner.
I'm moving, and I decided I'm trying to decide if I'm going to pack that DVD or not.
Yeah, you got to pack it, and you got to display it in a case on your mantle. You gotta,
and not to mention, like the DVD cover is a sharp instrument going into an eyeball.
Yeah, it's a knife going into an eye. Why can I not think of what the fuck that movie's called?
If you are a fan of the show, or if you are someone who paid us to watch that movie,
it's called Anguish.
Anguish. That was my feeling when I saw that cover of that DVD and remembered that I had put it in this desk after having watched it, and I was emptying this desk to pack. I'm like, oh right, the eyeball movie.
Well, maybe this will turn out like that. Maybe we'll get the ending and it'll just be in a theater. It'll be in a porn theater, and there's just dudes finishing and then leaving. Just
rubbing it out. We've already got Chekhov's rubbing it out joke. So
Chekhov's comes.
Someone just comes to death in this movie.
God.
I don't know.
All right, I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode.
God, this is one of those movies where I am very sure the second part of the episode, like part 2, is going to be a very fun thing, because this isn't going to be a movie that's going to go all over the place.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it didn't start in the 10 minutes, which, hey, if it's a weakness of our format, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.
One quick prediction before we go, or rather a bet. What is the likelihood we'll have a scythe fight in this movie?
Not zero. If you've done it once in your career, there's a chance this is not, that won't be the first or last time. So either direction of his entire filmography could have more scythe fights.
That is true. So I think that's a good place to end this episode. Come back on Thursday when we talk about the rest of special effects and see if there's a scythe fight or a fake dead body or a real dead body.
Or somebody comes to death.
Or that. But until then...
Find out if Josh bought that casual sex apricot blouse.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Hopefully it'll arrive by Thursday. But until then, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us. Now I'm going to go off and come to death.
Didn't see it coming. It was you.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. To get monthly bonus content, sign up at patreon.com/predictocast. As always, thanks for listening.